Hello and welcome to my demo on a 2D side-scroller level builder that I built. My name is Adam Rory Schwartz, and this project was done for a demo class. I'm going to be graduating from the Art Institute of Los Angeles in a few quarters, and this is one of my demo projects, um, showing some 2D game tools works here in Unity 5.1. Alright, well, let's get started here. I have a blank scene here with your regular camera, and I went ahead and put in this game object here, just environment. It's going to hold all of my environment objects, and this junk folder that some of the objects use when we get started here. So I'm going to go down here to my resources folder, into my prefabs. Right here is my manager. I'm going to add him to the screen, and as you see here, the manager is going to handle a few things. First thing you should notice is the moment I added him in, you got this big grid that I created. Helps me outline and build the level and give me frame of reference as I move along. And a couple of things I added into this functionality here is you can change the size of the grid if you want, depending on how big or how small you're working. I'm going to move it back to 2. All of our art assets are set for a 2x2 grid. The other thing I added into the functionality of the grid is the ability to change the color. So you can see, you can change it to any color you want, and however bright, not bright, that you'd like it. I'm going to go ahead and turn it back to blue. I think it gives a nice color to see here. A couple other buttons that we went in here. Here's some of the nuts and bolts of the game tools here. We have a spawn player function. As you can see, you got the young thud, adult thud. The game that this was built for has 2 different characters, so wanted it easy access to get those characters. We're going to actually bring him in later. At the moment, we don't quite need him. So let's start with some environment. As you see when I open up this window, it gives you a lot of options here. Tried to give you everything that was in the game and give you access to it, especially on the art side. So we can go in here. I'm going to choose one of our basic floor tiles here, and that's going to instantiate here at 0, 0. So that's where we're going to work a little bit here. First thing we want to do when we bring this guy in is all of these pieces use parenting to keep track of where they are. So we're going to go ahead and give it a parent, set it here, and that's why we have this environment tab. So now when I go ahead and set these tiles in, as you can see, they move right to where the grid is. I can go in any direction. You see they kind of overlap. We'll kind of deal with that later. And they're going into this environment object. I can actually get rid of this guy here and still just kind of pick and choose where I'm going to be placing my ground tiles here. So I'm going to go ahead and put out a lot of ground here, give ourselves a nice working space for our demo so I can show you some of the other options we have in here. We also have some wall options. I'm going to go ahead and put one of these clouds in here. Same thing. We're going to go ahead and give the cloud its parent, and we could go ahead and put this into the world here. I have this key binded to the button A, so I go ahead and just kind of point where I want it, and as you can see, I can build these wall tiles. We use clouds for the walls in this level. One of the first things I want to notice is you can see here, or I want you guys to notice, is as we overlap, it's kind of looks ugly, and with the perspective we're using on these sprites, we wanted an easy way to go ahead and clean this all up. So one of the first helper tools I want to show you is up here on the top. We have our custom tool tab with a lot of different sorting functions, one build function that we can talk about later here. But the first one I want to show you is this sort ground function. So I'm going to go ahead and click that, and as you can see, all of those items went ahead and organize themselves in a nice, clean, organized manner. But these tiles still all kind of out of whack here, some behind the ground, some in front, some layering over each other. Well, as I mentioned before, the walls, or the clouds we use as walls at the moment, so these are marked as walls. Go ahead, click wall, and as you can see, nice, square, orderly fashion. I'm going to go ahead and take some of these out here. I just wanted to show you the walls and the sorting functions to see how those go. We can also do it the old-fashioned way here. clear that up. We're not going to use walls at the moment. Alright, so let's go ahead and we'll clear that guy out. Let's use some of these blocks here. So I'm going to instantiate some of these letter blocks. And like we did before, we want to go ahead and make sure this guy has his environment. We can place him anywhere you want. Let's bring in a couple of other blocks here. Let's create W. That's great. And that W, let's make sure we give him that. Let's move him away. And let's get one with a different color. So let's go with this K here. Here we go. We bring in the K. Make sure we give him our environment here. And we're going to build out the rest of our thing here. So we have a lot of different options here. As you can see, I have the full alphabet. And we're just going to keep it simple here with these couple of blocks we brought in. Alright, go ahead, sort those guys, our ground blocks, just to keep everything nice and simple. And the next tool I want to show you is actually another window, even though we have some more things here. I'm going to bring in our loop box window. Now our loop box window is going to allow us to create exactly that, a loop box. We have two different kinds, one for level 1, one for level 2. We're going to focus on the level 1 loop box at the moment, which is a toy box. And level 2 we use a file cabinet. The other thing that the loop box window gives us is the option to put in what projectile or melee weapon or any other weapons that we add down the line. You'll be able to put in the contents or other power-ups. Anything can really be put into the loop box. So we're going to go ahead and select hammer, and we're going to create this guy. And like everything else, he's creating right here in the center, and we're just going to move him right here is probably a good place for that. And then we can close this window, clean up some space here. Alright, so we're starting to get some ground here, some blocks, something to jump over. We have a loot box. We'll show you how that works in game here. And let's add some platforms here. So we have a couple of ping pong platforms, as I call them. Basically they go back and forth from each other. So I have the horizontal and the vertical. Let's start with a horizontal platform. And let's move them into position here. These guys, as you can see here, have a start point, end point. You can move those guys individually here. Or you can move the whole snake together. And those game objects will disappear when we start up. But they kind of give you an easy reference point to set your platform here. And we'll add some more ground, somewhere for him to jump on the way back. And the toy box, we're going to give our player a weapon, and let's go ahead and give our player something to actually fight with our weapon here. So we're going to open up our third menu here, which is our enemy menu, separated between level 1 enemies, level 2 enemies. Level 2 we have some TPS reports, W2 form, and a file cabinet enemy, a little bit different than our file cabinet loot box. And then up in level 1 we have our different color weeples. Each weeple will have different actions, and then our star ball, which will be bouncing around and being an enemy you want to avoid. So we're going to go ahead and choose our purple enemy here and create one, and close our enemy window. This guy is going to set up right here, and we're going to go ahead and bring him down here. So, nice thing with our enemies, the sprite's a little messed up, but when we start we'll go ahead and be able to see the animations we have for him, or at least the ones we have for the moment. So each enemy comes with two game objects, kind of like our platforms. There are our start and our end points. For this guy, because he's going to throw some projectiles and it's a small platform, I'm just going to keep him right here, so he's actually not going to move anywhere. So we're going to go ahead and leave him right there, and he'll shoot at us when we get close. Alright, so let's take a look at our level. It's kind of coming together really quickly. That's why we build these tools. So we're going to go ahead and I think it's time to bring in a player. So we're going to go over here, like I mentioned earlier, we have the adult player, the young player, but we're building a level 1 scene, so I'm going to go ahead and click the young player, and we're going to spawn him, and he spawns right here. We're going to move him, oh, that's our camera. we're going to move this guy right here to the beginning. We have our camera. Move him close here like so, and then we're just going to parent that. For the main game we have a much better camera controller, but for this purpose we're just going to do the old-fashioned parenting the camera to the player, so when we get moving he'll just follow us nice and simple. Alright, so we have our player in here. We have some blocks to jump over. We have our loot box, going to get our melee weapon. We have a horizontal platform and an enemy. All these were put in here with our tools, my game tools that I built here, through some windows and some other helper tools that we've been calling from up here. Alright, one last window I wanted to show you before we kind of finish up the level here is this waterfall platform, what I call. It's kind of that vertical cycling platforms you would see in the Super Mario Brother games. You can choose the direction that you want the platforms to face. I'm going to go ahead and choose facing right. You can add in a platform count, so let's just call it 3. We don't need to get too many platforms. And the distance between the platforms. So let's go ahead and let's just give it a good distance. Let's say about 5 apart, and a move speed. So there you go. You input your options here. We're going to hit create, and like our other options, everything is being set back to 0 here. So we're going to go grab it. And we're going to grab this waterfall feature. And it is moving downwards, so we're going to go ahead and kind of grab this guy here. I think if we put him right about here, that should be good. Alright, let's grab some more ground. And just kind of guessing that this will be a good distance here for us. Alright, so, well, we don't want us to fall off the world here, so let's kind of build us some nice area here. Let's just use the ruler, keep it simple, right? And there we go. That'll catch us if we fall off of the off these platforms here. But at the same time, if you fall off the platforms, I don't think that you should be rewarded with living. That just doesn't sound good. So let's add in some traps here. So I have all these traps in this area here. Anything in this anything in this option will kill you. So we have a water block. We use that in our main level. As you can imagine, you fall in the water and you can't swim. So that's going to send you back. And then we also have jacks. So these jacks are different colors. And so let's just choose one of our colors here. Let's just choose let's do these blue jacks here. So I'm going to go ahead and create one of these guys and go grab him from over here. And let's move him in here. And this guy, let's go ahead, just like the other guys, just like the other objects we've been putting in here, let's give him a parent. This is going to allow us to easily duplicate all these jacks. Alright, that looks like a lot of good jacks. So another nice thing that we did, yes, is I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to grab all these jacks. So bear with me for 1 second here. This is just going to make it look a little bit better, and I'm just going to cut all these guys in half. Let's just shrink them here. Let's get rid of this original jack. We just don't need him. Alrighty, so we have all these little jacks in here. Well, fun thing about these traps is I've added rigid bodies to these guys. So when these start, this is all going to drop, and it's just going to be a fun pile of jacks for death. And I want to kind of look at this part, bring our attention back to the custom tool we built earlier. Go ahead, sort those blocks, and looking good again. Alright, so there's a lot of stuff that we built in here, some bouncy blocks. Level 2 we use a stapler as a spring. We don't really have time to show everything, but I did want to show one last thing here, is our candies. And so we do need to end this level somehow. So I preset here before this orange candy with a script for us that'll give us actually little bit of a win condition. So I'm going to go ahead and put our orange candy here. I'm going to tag him as the winner. And alright, so let's take a look at our level here. We have our player, we have our blocks, we have a way to get our melee weapon, we have a horizontal moving platform, we have this waterfall moving platform, we have a way to end our end goal here, and we have an enemy. Alright, so it looks like we have a pretty well rounded out level. The last thing that I wanted to kind of show you guys is the way we make things look a little bit better. So we're going to go back to that environment tab, and this option here, this is all of our art. So we're going to be able to go ahead here, click on this rubber ducky, and then we're going to take the rubber ducky, we're going to move him up here, and we're going to just be able to open him up like this, kind of spin him here, and maybe we want to create a cow. So let's bring the cow up here, and we got the cow, and we have our octopus. So we're going to build our octopus. So we could go on endless. We have a ton of different guys here. Ton of different options here, but I just wanted to show you some of the different options that you have here. So not only is it the environment and the building blocks, but also the art we set up in here. So it's kind of one stop where you can build an entire level, at least the visuals of the level, and without having to dive through the hierarchy. I mean, as you can see, we haven't dove into here except to grab our manager and put him in here, and we've been able to access all of our prefabs through all of the levels very, very easily through one manager screen right here. So we went ahead, we built our level, and so let's go ahead and see how this guy plays out for us. Alright, so we're going to go ahead and be able to move over our blocks here. Game's still working. We have our game tools that's going to help us build levels for it. So you got to bear with us on some of the cleaning up that we need to do here. But here we go. We're going to move across this platform. We got good collision box going on here, so you can move around on that guy. Here's our enemy, and we're going to go ahead and attack that enemy. He didn't fire at us. That's kind of sad. Here's our waterfall platform, and as you can see, we have our jacks in the pile down there. Go ahead and show it to you a little bit better because we like those jacks. So let's go ahead and find our camera on our player, and here we go. So there you go. As you can see, they kind of piled in there. They all had rigid bodies and kind of floating in there. And the last part of the level here is we can go ahead and get that, and that takes us to our temporary temp skin. Thanks for sticking with me through that. I know it's crude, and we're going to put together a much nicer video, but I wanted to get something up on the blog for people to see what I've been working on this quarter, and have something up there for anybody to look at as far as my senior project is concerned. Well, like I said, thanks again for sticking with me, and that was my level builder for my ongoing project here. Thanks again.